Tov, today's Daf Yomi is Bava Metzia Daf Pei Vav, Bava Metzia 86. And we're going to start on the top line on 86a, where the second line, where the Gemara says that Rebbe and Rav Nassan Sof Mishnah. Why is it mentioning this? Because it says that Shmuel found in the Sefer of Adam Arishon that he was dedicated or designated to be a healer of Rebbe. So now the Gemara tells us that Rebbe and Rebbe Nassan were the ones who were Sof Mishnah, the end of the Mishnah. Rashi says that means that they collected all the writings that came before them and they arranged it by topic into the volumes of the Mishnah that we know of today. Rav Ashi and Ravina Sofo Ra. By the way, it's interesting that everybody always says Rebbe added the Mishnah. But what about Rebbe Nassan? Here the Gemara says Rebbe and Rebbe Nassan. And then it says Rav Ashi and Ravina are the Sofo Ra. Rav Ashi and Ravina, they're the ones who were the end of the Hurrah. So Rashi says that this means that they edited the Gemara. They took all the teachings in the base Medrash and they collected them and put them into the volumes of the Gemara as we know it today. But also it means Sofo Ra that you're not allowed to make paskin a halacha against the Gemara. Gemara is the final word on things. Of course, we don't always know how the Gemara applies, but you're not allowed to argue explicitly against the Gemara. V'simanecha, and the way you'll remember that Rav Ashi and Ravina are the conclusion of the Gemara. It says, Adavo al-Mikdashi, Adavo al-Mikdashi el, Avino acharisam. So Mikdashi and Avina sounds like Rav Ashi and Ravina. It says, until I come to the temple of God, Avino acharisam, I'll understand in the end. Amar Rav Kahana, Ishtayli Rav Chama Barbarte, Techasa. So Rav Chama, who is the son of the daughter of Chasa, or the Chama, either Girsa, explained to me that Rav Bar Nachmani, Agav Shamda Nachnashi, that Rav Bar Nachmani died as a consequence of a shmad, of a persecution. Achu Be Kurza Be Malka, that basically the people who are the informed upon him against the king, Amru, that they said, Ika, hold on one second. So why are we even mentioning this story is a question. So either we could talk about it, it's because the earlier Gemara referred to informants, but more likely the explanation of the Maharal is because since we talked about how Rav Chia spread Torah, so here we're talking about how Rabbi Bar Nachmani spread Torah. So what happened was they informed upon him to the king. They said, Ika chad gavra b'Yudai, there's one person amongst the Jews, the Kamavatal Tracer Alpha Gavra Yisrael. Yarcha b'kaita the Yarcha b'stava. There's one person amongst the Jews who is canceling out 12,000 Jewish men, 1 month in the summer and 1 month in the winter. So what he was doing, he was gathering all the Jewish men for Yarchei Kala to study with him before Pesach and Rosh Hashanah. The interesting thing is 12,000. We know that Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of Talmidim who died, and the dying stopped on Lag Bomer, which is coming upon us. So what did they do? So they tried to find him. So what was the problem with that he was gathering them? Mikarga de Malka, that he's losing the taxes for the king. So Shadru Pristika de Malka Basra. So they sent an agent to the king to try to find Rabbi Bar Nachmani. They sent an agent from the king to try to find him. They couldn't find him. He went and he left from Pumpadisa to Akra, from Akra to Agma, from Agma to Shchin, Shchin to Tzrifa, Tzrifa to Ina Demayim, Ina Demayim Pumpadisa, and Pumpadisa Ashkacha. So, but in Pumpadisa, Rabbi Nachmani was finally caught. How was he caught? Because the agent of the king came to a certain host where Rabbi was staying, Ushpiza de Rabba, Krivu Taka Kame. They put a table in front of Rabba, and not in front of Rabba, they put a table in front of this agent of the king. Ashku Trey Kase, they gave him 2 cups to drink. And then when they gave him 2 cups to drink, then they removed the cups. Hadar Partzufe Lachori, the man had a terrible reaction. We know from the Gemara in Psachim that the Gemara in Psachim tells us on Kuf Yud Amabez that that it's very dangerous to drink in pairs. It's a sign of the demon. So, but they gave him 2 drinks, and he had a very bad reaction. So normally, my Navid way Gavra de Malkahu. So they said to Rabbi, "What should we do? This person is a king's guy. What are we going to do?" He said, "Put 1 more cup in front of him, and then I'll drink it, and then you'll remove it, and then it'll be okay, because then it'll be an odd number." And indeed, that's what happened. So and they did this, and he was healed. So Amar made it. So now he said, the guy who was saved, Rabbah saved his life. The guy realized he saved his life, but didn't matter. He said, "Made the Yadana the Gabra the Kabaina Hachahu." He says, he said, "I now realize that the guy I'm searching for is actually here." Bachish Abasre. He checked after him, and indeed, he discovered that was him. Amar Hazlina Meha. He said, "I'm going to leave you alone." But he said, "If they kill me, I'm not going to tell them that it was you. But he said, "But if they torture me, I'll have no. If they torture me, then that's what it is. I won't be able to hold out. I'll tell them that you're here." And indeed, Adrona the Tarko Avava Ba'ampe. So indeed, that's what happened. They caught Rabbi Bar Nachmoni. They put him in a. I guess a dungeon, or so they put him in this place. They put him in the Adrona, which is into the room. The Tarko Vava Ba'ampe, and they closed the door behind him. So Bai Rachmi, so Rabbi started to daven. Parach, the room collapsed. Ashite, basically it opened up. The wall fell down. Arak Vazo Agman. He ran out. He ran to the swamp. He was hiding out. Avayasav Agir Dadikula. So Rabbi was sitting on the trunk of a tree of Kagaris. What was he doing there? He was studying Torah. Kamiflagi b'Masifta Durakia. And then they were having a macholkas. They're having an argument. They were studying Gemara, and they're having an argument in the heavens. They said, Imba Heres, Kodemes, Lisei, or Lavan. Yeah, Tame. So when it says about leprosy, if the white white spot on the skin comes prior to the white hair, then he's Tame. Imser Lavan, but if the white hair comes, Kodem Baharis, if the white hair comes prior to the Baharis, then he's Tahor. So what about if it's a suffix? What if we're not sure? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Tahor. Hashem himself said it's Tahor. V'kul Masifta D'Rakia Amri Tame. The whole yeshiva in heaven was arguing with God, and they said it's Tameh. How could anyone argue with God? God makes the halacha. So we have to think about that. But first, let's finish the story. V'amri man nochach. They said, who's going to teach us the halacha? Nochach, Rabbi Bar Nachmani. So they said Rabbi Bar Nachmani can answer for us. Rabbi Bar Nachmani, ani yachid b'negayim, ani yachid b'olos. He said, Rabbi Nachmani said, I'm an expert in the laws of Negayim and Saras and Olos and Tum and Tahara. So Shadru Shlicha Basrei. So they sent an agent after him to find him. Love Matzi. See, by the way, Love Matzi Machamava, so Mikrav way. And the angel of death couldn't find him. We see from here, if you think you're the world's expert, the angel of death is going to come looking for you to opine on the matter. But the reason why he couldn't get him was because he never was stopping to study Torah. So what did he do? He caused the wind to blow, and he caused the wind to blow, and he caused these he made a noise amongst the reeds. Savar Gunda de Parshi Havi. He said, "Oh, there's the king's horses are coming to catch me." He said, "Let me die." He prayed to die so that he wouldn't be handed over to the king. When he was dying, he said, "Tahor, tahor." He made a halachic ruling. He said, "It's pure, it's pure." So the upshot is that he was giving his psak on this case. That he's saying that if we're not sure, it's tahor. He passes like Hashem. The interesting thing is that the Rambam paskins against this way. The Rambam paskins it's tamei. So if you look in here, you see that there's the little dot that says tamei. So the Rambam paskins against God. The Rambam paskins against Hashem. This is part of the ideas that we said that Hashem makes the rules and we apply them, and then even Hashem binds himself by the rules of the world. So he's Yatsa Paskal Amra Ashrecha Rav Bar Nachmani Shaguf Chotar Yatzas Nishmatzecha B'Tar. He says, how fortunate are you, Rav Bar Nachmani, that your body is pure and your soul departed with the word Tahor. Nafal Pitka Mirakia B'Pumpadisa, a note dropped from heavens in Pumpadisa, Rav Bar Nachmani Nisbakish B'Yeshiva Shamala. So he says, Rav Bar Nachmani, the note said Rav Bar Nachmani was requested in the yeshiva in heaven. Nafku Abai V'Rava, the Kula Rabbanan Le'asuke Be. So Abai and Rava and all the rabbis went out to look for the body. They couldn't find Rav Bar Nachmani's body. Azlu Agma, and they came to a swamp. They saw birds that were making like a dark shadow over a certain place. So we say he must be there. They eulogized him for 3 days. And 3 nights. Nafal Piska, another note fell down. Whoever thinks that they've done enough and wants to leave now, he's going to be excommunicated. They eulogized him for another 7 days. Nafal Piska, another note fell down. It says, go to your homes, l'shalom, and peace. Ahu Yoma, that day, the day that he died, Daya Zafa, Bedari Lahutaya. A wind came and lifted up a certain Arab merchant, Kirachav Gamla, as he was riding his camel, Mehagisa Dinahar Papa, the Shaja Bahaki. So it took him from one side and threw him on the other side. Amar Mahai, we said, what's going on? Amar Lay. Nach Nafshe de Rav Bar Nachmani. He said, Rav Bar Nachmani has died. Amar Lefanav. So this Arab merchant said, Ribbon Shalom, the whole world is yours. Rav Bar Nachmani Didach, and Rav Bar Nachmani is yours. At the Rabba, the Rabba Didach. You have each other. Why are you trying to destroy the world? So the storm stopped. So since we're talking about obese rabbis before, also Rabbi Shimon Chalafta was obese. Yom Achada, one day he was hot. Havesalk v'Yosef Ashina de Torah. He was basically removed his coat, and he sat down he went up and he sat down on the top of the mountain. Amrole Labarte, he said to his daughter, Biti, my daughter, he said, Hanifu alai b'manifa, like wave a fan upon me, v'ani atain lech kikaran de nerd, and I'll give you a bunch of nerd, which is very like a flowery herb. Now, an herb that was very smelled like perfume. In the meantime, a wind came and blew and fanned him. Amar said, I really have to give a lot of this beautiful smelling herb to God because God's blowing the wind. Meaning, say, I have so many brachos of blessings that I need to give to Hashem. So it said in the Mishnah that everything follows the law of the land. That when it comes to paying the workers and providing food from them. That it comes to include that even if it's a place where in the morning before they start to work, you would give them a loaf of bread and a drink of anpaka. That was like a drink that holds a certain amount of liquid. That if he says to them, go start to work and then I'll bring it to you, they could say no. First give it to us and then we'll work. Meaning to say if he tries to them, I'll give you the food basically at this, come early and I'll give you the food. They say no, we get the food after sunrise. So that's when our lunch break is. Maisa, Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya Shamar, no, it's save his Lord. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya told his son, go out and hire me some workers. And he went out and he promised them food. And then Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya said to his son, no, you're not going to be able to give them food. Even if you promise them like Shlomo Melch, they're going to want like Avraham. And so he said, go back and tell them that you're only giving them bread and beans. But we had just said that we follow the custom of the land. Maisel Istor, are you really bringing a story that contradicts what we just said? Because in the ratio, we said everything follows the custom of the land. And now we said that even if you do it like Shlomo Melch, it's not sufficient. So which is it? So the Gemara says, it's missing some words. This is what it's saying. So there's the baseline is the law of the land, and then if he decides to give them food, ribolan, he's adding on to them. That means to say it's not diminishing, that any other promises are additional. There was indeed an incident with Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya. He said to his son, hire for us workers. He went and hired them workers. When he came to his father, so you haven't fulfilled your obligation, even if you want to give it to them like Shlomo in his time. Shehein b'nei Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. That because these workers are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Gemara says, wait, well, Meimer the Suda, so the Avram Avinu Atifa mi de Shlomo. You mean to say that the meals of Abraham were better than Shlomo? For one day alone, Shlomo had as a meal 30 kor of flour, fine flour, and 60 kor of coarser flour. Asara bakar briam, 10 big strong cows, vasara bakar and 10 pasturing cows. Umeatzon, and 100 sheep, aside from the rams, the gazelle, the yachmor, the barbur, and the black geese. So barbur mavusim, and the hens, that they avusim means, like, we'll see what it means in the Gemara, but they were force fed. Amar Gurion ben As Diomishmei Derav Halalu Amilin. This bread that we said, this flour, was not just to eat as bread, but that was just for the Amilin Shel Tabachim. That was just for the chefs to use as like a cover for their pot. I guess they didn't have covers in those days, so they would cover their pot with the dough. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Halalu Tzikak there. No, the bread was just used out to clean out the bottoms of the pots. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Elaf Nashim Ayul Shlomo. Not only that, Solomon had 1,000 wives. Each one made that exact meal in their own homes every night. Each one thought that maybe this person is going to come and eat with me. Maybe Solomon's going to come to eat with me. With respect to Avram, it says Avram ran to the cattle. Ben Bakar all he did was take one cattle, soft and good. Ben Bakar Achad, one cattle, Rachas Shnayim, soft is 2, Vitov, and good is Shlosha is 3. So Avram only served 3 cattle, and you're talking about here that he served so many more, so much more than that. He had Sarah Bakar, Briam, Sarah Bakar, 10 of each, and then a lot of other foods also. So Avram's wasn't bigger than Shlomo. So the Gemara says, no. Hasam tlasa turelu tlasa gavre. Avram gave 3 oxen to 3 people. Hachal Yisrael Yehuda. Solomon's feast was for everybody came to the Kiddush, all of Israel and Judah. As it states, Yehuda Yisrael Rabim Kachol Asher al Sfasayam, as it says in that chapter in Kings, that the Jewish people were many, and so we had to feed them. My barburim avusim. What are these barburim avusim? These geese that are avusim. Amarav she'obsim osam v'karchan. Force-fed geese, like foie gras. V'shmo amar shavusim v'om demelim. Know that they eat on their own, like free range. Rabbi Yochanan amar mevi'in tor memariso. So Rabbi Yochanan says that what they do is, Rabbi Yochanan's of the opinion that they bring an ox from the place where it grazes, below anis, that they don't force it to do work. V'tarnagolas me'ashpasa, and the hen they bring from the eating from the trash, free range, below anisa. They don't require to do anything to raise eggs or anything, and that's the ones they force. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, those are the avusim. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, hamuvchar shebehemos. Sure, he says the best one amongst the animals is an ox. Mufchor sheba'ofos, and the best one amongst the birds is a tarnagolas, is a hen. Amar Ameimer taught, Zakta ukamta beibat nisa demishtacha bene atri. A black hen with a big belly that walks around amongst the wine presses and eats its dregs is Delo Matzia Pasya Kanya. It's become so fat that it can't even jump over a little branch because it's so satiated. So now we're going to, since we started talking about Avram, we'll talk about the psukim from the Torah. Many of them Rashi cites in Parashas Vayera about what happened in that scene with Abraham and when he fed the calves. Avram ran to the bakar, to the cattle. Amrav Yehuda Amrav Ben Bakar Echad, one, that's one cattle, Rach Shnayim and Tov Shlosha. So there were three. Ve'em Echad, why don't we say it was one? Gemara says no. And why don't we say it's just one? Like people say, Rachach L'Tov. I'm going to give you a good and nice juicy burger. Gemara says no. Imkein L'Tov Rach Tov. My Vatov. What does it mean Vatov? Shema Mino Adrasha. So it's to tell us that there were three. Ema Trey, maybe it was two because it's just Vatov. Gemara says no. Me the Tov Adrasha Rach Nam Adrasha. The fact that Tov is to be expounded also Rach also. Masav Rabba Bar Ula Vitim Rav Oshai Vitim Rav Nasan Bar Rav Oshiav says Vayiteno Anar Vayimaher Lasosoto, that Abraham gave it to the lad and he quickly ran to do it. Kol Chad V'Chad Yavi Lenar Chad. Each lad brought one of the calves to one of the guests. There were three guests. And so then he took butter and milk and the cattle that he made, and he placed it before them. And so it means, says the Gemara, the kama the matcha asel kameo. As soon as each one was finished, he brought it out. He didn't wait for all of them to be served at the same time. Why does he need three cows for three guests? You can't eat each person can't eat a cow. Just one cow should have been sufficient for all three. So the Gemara says, he wanted to feed them 3 tongues dipped in mustard. A person should never change the practice of the custom of the place. Moshe went up to the heavens, did not eat any bread. The angels came down, when they visited Abraham, they ate bread. So the Gemara says, you think these angels are capable of eating? They looked like they were eating and drinking. Whatever Abraham did to these angels on his own, God did to his own children by himself. Everything that Abraham did through an agent, and God did through an agent to the children of Israel. It says, Abraham ran to the cattle. A wind came forth from God. Abraham took the butter and the milk. God gave us personally the man. Abraham was standing over them underneath the tree, and God says, I'll stand before you there on the rock. Avram walked with them to send them forth. Hashem walked before them during the day. Then, but he says, please have some water taken for you, which is through an agent. It says, Hashem said to Moshe, you'll hit the rock and the water will come out. So the whole reason why it was done that, and Moshe was supposed to hit the rock was because it had to come through an agent, because Abraham himself didn't bring the water. And that's what caused the whole downfall of the sin of Moshe. So you see, if Abraham had given them the water himself, Moshe would have gotten the water himself. Maybe he would have been able to come into the land. And then the people drank. And this is in dispute with Reb Chama bar Chanina, who says, the merit of three, there were three rewards. And the merit of the butter and the milk, they merited the manna. He stood over them. They merited the pillar of cloud. In the merit of, take a little bit of water. They merited the well of Miriam. Yukach namat mayim rachatzu raglach. Means to take some water and wash your feet. Amar Rabbi Yanai. They said to Avram, you think that we're Arabs? They bow down to the dust of their feet. We already have Yishmael has come forth from him. So basically, because he's already seen that Yishmael is acting like an Arab, so therefore that's why he suspected him. God appeared to Abraham in Abraham was sitting at the entrance to the tent at the heat of the day. Why was it so hot? Why does it need to tell us this? That was the third day after Abraham's circumcision. And God came to ask Abraham, so God wanted to make sure that no guests came out, so he made it so hot so nobody would be traveling. So that there would be no guests on the road. So Abraham sent Eliezer outside to find some guests. So Eliezer went out, couldn't find any guests. Abraham said, I don't believe you. And that's why it says Taman Leisem Nusa Ba'avde. So that's why it says over there. And we don't believe the assistant. Assistant says there's no guest. He didn't believe it. So he went out. He saw God was standing at the entrance to his tent. It says, please. That's why it says in the verse, don't pass by. Meaning to say, he told the Kadosh Baruch Hu, who was waiting, who was there. He says, wait, I have to go get guests. Keeping the chazot to ka'asar v'shari. That once God saw that Abraham had tied a bandage on his wound, and then he removed it in order to go help the guests. It's not appropriate to make Abraham wait like this. I don't know if then so God made the angels come as guests. So that's why it says he saw that there were 3 men standing above him, and he ran to greet them. So the Gemara says, why did he have to run to them? Meikara asu come away. At first, they stood next to him. When they saw that he was in pain, when they saw that he had pain from the circumcision, the angel said, it's not appropriate to stand here. So therefore, once they said that, they didn't want to stay, but he ran to greet them. So, okay, we'll stop the daf here, and God won't pick this up, of course, on Shabbos, but again also at 8 a.m. and at noon. We say to everybody,